your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay.
Human trafficking is an international crime, a national crime, and a local crime. It is the obtaining of another human being through force, fraud, or coercion for labor or sex services. Humans are obtained in violations of their human rights. People, more specifically traffickers, profit from the control and exploitation of others. Sex trafficking is the harboring, transportation, or obtaining of a person of a commercial sex act. Labor trafficking is the harboring, transportation, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force and coercion. Although sex trafficking is one of the most prevalent types of trafficking in the modern day, there are only a couple of forms of sex trafficking. The adult entertainment industry, such as strip clubs and pornography, involves a lot of sex trafficking. Prostitution is also a common way of sex trafficking and is usually performed by women who need to bring in money for her owner. Slavery committed by labor services involve a variety of different places where it's most frequent. Farms, canneries, cleaning services, restaurants, and construction sites are the most popular places for enforcing human labor. Unlike labor slavery, which is usually men, women, and children, sex slavery is predominantly women and children. Anyone under the age of 18 who performs a commercial sex act is a victim of trafficking, regardless of whether force or coercion was involved. Those older than 18, however, are only victims of human trafficking if it occurred against their will. Currently, more than 27 million humans are considered slaves, which is more than double the number of people who were enslaved during the transatlantic slave trade. Of the 27 million humans, there are an estimated 100,000 children involved in the sex trade each year. Due to the exponential increase in the availability of slaves, the value of a slave has decreased since the 1800s by almost $400,000. Traffickers don't just target anyone. Because traffickers seek a quick and easy transaction, they predominantly target vulnerable people. Typically, the vulnerable people include those who don't have much to say in the society or go unnoticed when missing. Immigrants and children are also a main target, as they are often unaware of what happens around them. It's too simple to say that slavery and human trafficking is driven by only poverty. However, poverty is one of the many factors. Poverty accompanies political and social instability as well as unsuccessful migrations. North Carolina passed a bill in 2007 stating that human trafficking is a felony. As of 2007, North Carolina offers state assistance to victims of human trafficking. This bill did not stop human traffickers from doing their job, as many more cases have been reported after the release of the bill. In April 2009, a man was sentenced to 24 years in prison for operating a human trafficking sex trade between Charlotte and Washington. Girls as young as 16 were smuggled in from Mexico. These cases aren't just found in busy cities such as Charlotte, but also in places as near as Duke. In June 2009, a Duke University official was arrested after an internet sting, which is the trafficking done over the internet. He was charged with trafficking a 5-year-old boy for sex. Dr. Greg Brennan, a candidate for the United States Senate, said that items as simple and necessary as food stamps enslave people because, quote, when you're in the behest of somebody else, you're enslaved, unquote. He also stated that, quote, what you want to do, it's crazy but true, is teach people to fish instead of giving them the fish, unquote. In the past 6 years, there were 426 total tip-in crisis calls to the National Human Trafficking Resources Center, or NHTRC. On a similar note, there were 2,054 NHTRC hotline calls from 2008 to the present. Human trafficking is an underground crime. It is hard and rare for it to be uncovered, which is one reason why it's prevalent on a global level. More specifically, trafficking is so prevalent in North Carolina because of its network highways, the many military bases, the many ports, the large agricultural system, the large immigrant population, which is still growing, and the fact that it is a coastal state. It is a very hidden crime, one where not a lot of data is being collected, and one where there is a widespread misunderstanding of what sex trafficking is and looks like. Many innocent people are being trafficked all around the world. Between 600,000 and 800,000 people are trafficked annually across international borders. In the United States, between 14,500 to 17,500 people are being trafficked annually. This ungodly number makes the United States rank as the third largest country for trafficking. Human trafficking profits between $8 to $10 billion annually, with a $32 billion revenue made annually worldwide. The Polaris Project ranks North Carolina as top 10 state for both labor and sex trafficking, which is based off of the number of calls the project's hotline receives from each state. North Carolina ranks as the 8th worst state in the country for human trafficking. The states that are ranked even worse than North Carolina are number 1, North Dakota, number 2, Arizona, number 3, Utah, number 4, Colorado, number 5, Delaware, number 6, New Hampshire, and number 7, South Dakota. The states that rank higher than North Carolina are mostly very quiet and not very well-known states, proving that traffickers like to work in places that are not frequently heard about. What comes as the greatest wake-up call and slap in the face for North Carolina is that 21 of the 100 counties have either reported charges related to the North Carolina human trafficking laws, or where convictions on charges of human trafficking have occurred. Human trafficking is happening all around us. All of the 21 counties marked in red are very populated countries and that have easy access to the highways, since they are not out in rural areas of North Carolina. For the trafficker to succeed in obtaining the human, they must undergo a series of steps. To avoid becoming a victim of trafficking, we need to be aware of what this looks like. The first step that a trafficker takes to enslave another human being is gaining trust. A human trafficker often shows false love and physical affection, presents gifts, gives luxury, and gives false promises of a better life. Once the victim has been transported into a different environment, however, the conditions immediately change towards abuse. The following actions involve dehumanizing the victim. This involves physical, emotional, and social abuse. It can be, but is not limited to beating, whipping, and slapping. Often, a trafficker also burns a victim's items, renames the person, and confiscates any and all forms of documentation. These steps help to degrade the victim, and so they are no longer seen as a person, but as a physical property. The third and final step a human trafficker undergoes is hiding the victim. Hiding a victim in plain sight has proven the most successful way to hide the victim. Often, victims are disguised as exotic dancers, massage parlors, escorts, and streetwalkers. If we are cognizant of the tactics the trafficker uses, we are more likely to be able to sense when someone is, in fact, a trafficker.
I was 14 years old when I was forced into prostitution. Like many teens at that age, finding my identity and defying my parents were on top of my list. So when a man came into my life and showered me with attention and listened to me when I complained about my parents, I did not think twice that he was 10 years my senior. After all, he said I was mature for my age, and told me I understood him better than anyone his own age. Little did I know he was laying down the seeds of manipulation. It did not matter what my parents said. To me, they did not understand me, and he was the only one that got me. After 6 months, I thought I loved him. At least that's what he told me. So I did what I thought my heart was telling me and ran away to be with him. We ended up in Cleveland, Ohio. He told me we were going to meet the rest of his family. I had no idea the family meant myself and 3 other girls. After I was introduced to the family, I was told what my role would be. I would go out to work that night and bring him back money. How else would we build our dream home? He assured me that he would always love me no matter what, but he needed to know how much I loved him by making sure I would do anything for him. Later that evening, his friends came by the motel. At first, he told me to have sex with someone. I did not want to, so his friends raped me. Afterwards, he said that this wouldn't have happened if I had just listened to him at first. I blamed myself instead of being angry for him for being raped. I was angry at myself for not listening to him in the first place. After that, he picked my clothes out, told me what to wear, what to say, how to walk, and what to say to Johns, and how much money I was to bring back to him. He then forced me to go out onto the streets. I can't count the number of times people have asked me, why didn't you just leave? Couldn't you escape? To that I simply said, do you ask a child that is kidnapped why they didn't try to leave?
Whenever something suspicious is detected or heard of, the first thing to do is call for help. In North Carolina, 326 calls were made in 2012, which increased greatly from 190 in 2011. This could be either due to an increase in human trafficking or an increase in the awareness about the subject. The main reason why getting help in stopping the subject is so hard because of the victims who feel ashamed to tell someone what is happening to them. They are afraid of being punished for what they had done in command of their trafficker, so more times than not, the victim does not want to speak out. There are ways of preventing trafficking, however. It can be reduced if not stopped by those who are bystanders. Some internship and volunteer groups that help raise awareness to stop trafficking are the NCCASA, or the North Carolina Coalition Against Sexual Assault, which ends slavery through education, advocacy, and legislation; the NCCAHT, or the North Carolina Coalition Against Human Trafficking, which educates the society in human trafficking in North Carolina; there is the Salvation Army, which helps with case management service for trafficking victims, and holds seminars and training sessions on human trafficking. There is the Legal Aid of NC, which offers interns to law students wanting to get experience working in a public setting, and offers legal services for victims. There is the CAST program, or the Carolina Against Slavery and Trafficking. It educates people about the topic and advocates the injustice of slavery and trafficking. There is Emma's Home, which is a home for victims of sex trafficking and human trafficking. It is located in Durham, and you can donate, read stories of some of the victims, help participate in events held in Triangle, and learn about the topic. You can also send some letters to their mailing box, which is right in Durham. Slavery and human trafficking is in fact a very important and misunderstood topic. Although it cannot be stopped by just one person, it takes just one person to start the change. We must raise awareness about this topic, and the best way to do so is to educate ourselves about the subject. We can be the change.